When Juaran Company was on the brink of bankruptcy, I became his girlfriend. Over the past 5 years of our relationship, I have been secretly leveraging my family's resources to help his company thrive. On the eve of the company's IPO, he finally proposed to me, promising to make me the happiest woman in the world. But I accidentally discovered chat logs between him and his brother on his computer. I married Shiwen just to spite Jahan. The company is about to go public, and I'm about to become a billionaire. I'm sure Jahan won't just stand by and watch me marry Olivia. As long as Jahan is willing to come back from abroad for me, I'll divorce that woman and marry her. Upon seeing this, I immediately had my family withdraw all investments. I let them be together, a tragic pair of star-crossed lovers. Dad, withdraw your shares from Juaran Company in a few days. With the company's IPO imminent, if my father withdrew his investment, it would be a disaster for Juaran. Did that guy bully you? Dad will take care of it for you. My father has always doted on me, and without asking any questions, he was ready to confront Juaran. I forced a bitter smile. Dad, I'll settle this with him myself. My voice trembled slightly. To avoid worrying my father, I quickly hung up the phone. My gaze remained fixed on the chat logs on the computer screen, which were shocking to behold. Juaran was my senior at university. During my first year of college, I was harassed by a group of thugs, and Juaran stepped in to protect me, getting into a fierce fight with them, leaving him covered in blood. But it was precisely because of that incident that I fell deeply in love with him. From childhood to adulthood, aside from my dad, he was the first man who would risk his life for me. So during college, I pursued him for a long time, but he never agreed. Looking back now, I really was being foolish. It was precisely because of his indifference toward me that I wanted him even more, and I found such a man even more attractive. It wasn't until after graduation, when his company went bankrupt and he was left with millions in debt. During the darkest period of his life, with my support, he gradually pulled himself together. Finally, he agreed to be my boyfriend. I then asked my father to use our family's resources to secretly help him behind the scenes, getting the company back on track. After 5 long years, the company was finally on the verge of going public. On the day the IPO was approved, he proposed to me. I thought we were finally going to be together. But it turned out that all of this was just to get back at his Sophia. And I was just a pawn in his game. On our wedding day, I'm afraid I'll become a laughingstock to everyone. Today, Juaran went out for a business dinner. For some reason, he left in a hurry and forgot to log out of his WeChat on the computer. Although the chat records have left me heartbroken and unable to breathe, I still took the opportunity to open his moments. Because I've never seen his moments before. He seems to have never posted anything there, not even when we went on trips together. He never shared any sweet photos of us. But when I opened his moments now, I realized he does post there. He's just been blocking me all along. Soon, I found a photo of a girl in his moments. Though only her fair wrist was visible, the jade bracelet on it stood out glaringly. Because a few days ago, I had seen it in his suit pocket. I had thought he had finally understood romance and was going to give it to me on our wedding day. But it was for another woman. It turned out he wasn't incapable of romance. He just didn't have any romance for me. Just then, my phone rang. Shiwen, come over quickly. Juaran is fighting with someone. I could faintly hear Juaran's angry shouts over the phone. You bastards, you must apologize to my girlfriend. My heart twisted in pain. I wasn't even by his side, the girlfriend he was referring to couldn't possibly be me. I wanted to know what had happened tonight, so I put on my coat, went to the shoe cabinet, and found the scarf I had given him lying quietly on the ground. Upon closer inspection, there were clear footprints on it. I had spent over 10 days knitting it, pricking my fingers multiple times, just to give it to him. But he didn't cherish it at all. I picked up the scarf, expressionless, and threw it into the trash bin. I then hailed a taxi and went to the bar where Juaran was fighting. There he was, hugging a woman with tears streaming down her face. On her fair wrist was the emerald jade bracelet. Those guys accidentally spilled some wine on Juaran's friend, so he got into a fight with them. Juaran drank a lot today, and I'm worried he'll cause trouble. Ethan's friend hurried over to me and explained. Upon hearing the reason, I couldn't help but smile wryly. I remembered when I accompanied him to entertain a client earlier. Because the business deal fell through, the client intentionally spilled wine on my face. He didn't get this angry then. Instead, he blamed me for being inconsiderate and said I had ruined the deal. Seeing Juaran about to charge at the other group again, his friend rushed forward to stop them. Juaran. Enough, enough. You're about to get married. Don't cause any trouble. Unexpectedly, Juaran shoved his friend away. Who the hell is getting married? This bastard spilled wine on my girlfriend. How can this be settled like this? No apology, no one is leaving. Juaran was drunk, his eyes blurry, and he was swaying as he walked. This remark also made some of my friends who knew me feel awkward. They all turned their gaze toward me. I gave a cold smile, then stepped forward and slapped the man facing off with Juaran across the face. The slap sent a wave of silence through the crowd. You damn woman. How dare you hit me? After a moment of silence, the man finally erupted in anger, lunging toward me with clawed hands. I just wanted to see Juaran's reaction. Would he still rush to protect me like he did back then, fighting the man without hesitation? However, Juaran pushed me aside with force, shouting angrily. What are you doing here causing trouble? Don't you think today is already chaotic enough? You're good for nothing but causing trouble. Juaran's words left my heart completely shattered. He then looked at the other person with a smug expression and said, We're even now. Get out of here. The other person was relatively rational and didn't continue the commotion, eventually leaving with a string of curses. After the other person left, Juaran collapsed heavily onto the sofa. Juaran's friend awkwardly explained to me, Shiwen, don't take it to heart. Juaran was drunk earlier and just spoke without thinking. This is Yahan, Juaran's high school classmate. She just returned from abroad today. I glanced at Yahan indifferently. Tears were still lingering at the corners of her eyes. She looked as though she had suffered a great injustice. Yahan, this is Juaran's fiancée, she. However, before his friend could finish introducing them, Juaran suddenly sat up from the sofa. Colleague. What fiancé? This sudden outburst made my body tremble violently. The atmosphere in the room became incredibly awkward. After a long silence, Ethan's friend hurriedly tried to smooth things over and handed me a glass of wine. Sister-in-law, I'll toast to you. But just as he poured the wine, Juaran sat up again, glaring angrily at his friend and shouted. Don't you know my sister-in-law is allergic to alcohol? Indeed, I am allergic to alcohol, and he knows that. What I didn't expect was Yahan's reaction. Juaran, you've had too much to drink. Steve was toasting Shiwen, not me. Juaran finally relaxed. Oh, so she can drink a lot. She's the best drinker in the entire company. Hearing this, I felt something in my chest shatter with a loud bang. It left my heart in pieces, bloodied and mangled. I remember a few years ago, during a business dinner, I told him beforehand that I was allergic to alcohol. But when we arrived at the restaurant, he immediately started telling me to toast each client one by one. That day, I ended up in the hospital, and he still blamed me for being overly sensitive, saying that such a small amount of alcohol couldn't have knocked me out. Yet, despite such a profound lesson, he still hadn't remembered that I'm allergic to alcohol. It can only be said that, deep down, he never truly cared about me. This time, I still clung to a sliver of hope. But now, it's shattered completely. At that moment, Yahan stood up and said to me, Since you're here, take Juaran home. I just returned from abroad and can't take care of him tonight. Oh, and tomorrow morning, make sure to brew him a cup of ginger honey water. He loves it. If he doesn't drink it, he'll have a headache all day. Don't forget to cover him with a blanket at night. He always sleeps badly when he drinks too much. Every word Yahan said seemed to tell me that she knew Juaran better than I did. Today, she had simply dumped this mess on me. I stared at Yahan's innocent expression for a long time, truly wanting to slap her. But in the end, I held back. I wanted to see how long this charade would continue. On the way home, I couldn't hold back my tears. 5 years of dating, plus the 4 years I chased him. I had loved this man for 9 years. And this was the result I got. This also reminded me of the chat records I had seen earlier. As long as Yahan was willing to come back from abroad for him, he would divorce me and marry her. Today, he's achieved his goal. No wonder he was in such a hurry to leave this afternoon. He must have gone to the airport to pick her up. At that moment, Juaran's phone vibrated. I opened it and saw that it was a message from Johan. But my gaze immediately fixated on Johan's profile picture. The two of them had changed their couple profile pictures, probably just now at the gathering. I remember last year, I hired a well-known illustrator to draw an avatar for me and Joran. I excitedly asked Joran to change his avatar. He scolded me for being childish and told me to focus on my work. But now, he and Johan have changed to an even more childish one. At that moment, I felt a small box in Joran's suit pocket. I carefully took it out. However, when I saw the DR logo, my breathing suddenly became rapid and uncontrollable. My hands were trembling violently. The rapid breathing left me oxygen deprived, and the scene before my eyes began to spin. I finally gathered the courage to open the box. Inside was indeed a DR diamond ring. Engraved on the back were the letters YH, which stood for Johan's name. I had begged him countless times to buy a DR ring for our wedding. After all, every man can only custom make one such ring in his lifetime. But he refused. He said it was just a gimmick. However, he had been waiting all along for Johan, intending to engrave her name on this most important ring. I wiped away the tears welling up in the corners of my eyes once more, then, while Joran was sound asleep, used his fingerprint to open the message Johan had sent. Dear, don't forget to help me pick out a wedding dress tomorrow. With a loud thud, seeing that message, I felt my head buzzing. I had mentioned the wedding dress to him many times, but he always told me to choose it myself, using the excuse that the company was about to go public and he couldn't accompany me. In truth, he didn't care what I bought. Because, to him, I was never going to wear that wedding dress. At that moment, I really wanted to cry my heart out. But seeing the driver still sitting in front of me, I could only clench my thighs tightly, forcing myself to hold back the tears. My nails had dug deeply into my flesh. I could only let the physical pain replace the pain in my heart. I tried to convince myself to let go of this love I had clung to for 9 years. The next morning, I still followed Johan's instructions and made him some ginger honey water. However, he took a sip and spat it out. What the hell is this? Why did you add ginger? Don't you know I hate the smell of ginger the most? But I clearly remembered Johan saying that he loved the taste of ginger honey water the most. Soon, I understood. He didn't like the taste of ginger honey water, he liked Johan's taste. He liked Sophia's taste. I hadn't slept all night, but I had come to terms with this relationship. Seeing him like this, I surprisingly didn't get angry. Instead, I poured the entire bowl of ginger honey water into the trash can. Joran put on his shoes and said coldly, the company is about to go public, and I have a lot to do. Don't cause me any more trouble. After saying that, he turned around and slammed the door shut. I knew he was going to accompany Johan to pick out a wedding dress. I sent someone to quickly find out which store Johan was choosing her wedding dress at. Actually, there was no need to investigate, it was no surprise. Joran had chosen the most expensive and high-end wedding dress shop in the city. It was also the same store I had visited 4 or 5 times before. 3 days ago, I had placed an order here for the most expensive wedding dress in the country. Today was supposed to be the day it arrived at the store. However, when I arrived at the store, I just happened to see Johan wearing the dress, twirling around in front of Joran. Joran was discussing something with the store manager. Joran, I really love this dress. I only want this one, Johan said in a sweet, pleading voice, clinging to Joran's arm. Joran was negotiating with the store manager. Call that lady and tell her I'm willing to add another 100,000 and compensate her 100,000, as long as she's willing to give this wedding dress to me. Hearing this, I couldn't help but smile wryly. So, for his Sophia, he was actually willing to be so generous. The store manager was naturally swayed by Joran's offer and turned to go into the warehouse to make the call. I slowly walked behind Joran. Johan noticed me first. Her face turned pale, and she poked Joran's hand, looking at him with a pitiful expression. Joran finally turned around and saw me, his brows furrowing instinctively. There's so much work at the company. Why aren't you there? What are you doing here? However, instead of showing any embarrassment, he immediately launched into a scolding. I watched him silently, unwilling to argue. Last night, I had already cried myself dry for him. It wasn't worth it to be hurt by him again. Seeing that I didn't speak, Joran pinched his nose and finally spoke again. Shiwen, you saw it too. The person I truly love is Yahan. Don't make a scene. I'll give you some money. I hope you can leave with dignity. My gaze remained fixed on his eyes. This time, I only wanted to ask him one final question. Zhuoran, I just want to know, all these years, have you ever truly loved me? After hearing this, Zhuoran's lips curled into a dismissive smile. Shiwen, I know you love me to death. But today, in front of Yahan, I must tell you the truth, I have never loved you. I only pitied you for chasing me for so many years, so I agreed to be with you. Although this was the answer I had expected, Zhuoran's words were even more ruthless than I had imagined. Well, so be it. If he could be so heartless, then why couldn't I? At that moment, the store manager emerged from the warehouse. Mr. Zhua, I'm sorry. But before she could finish, she saw me and looked surprised. Oh, Miss Lu, you're here. This gentleman. Before she could finish, I interrupted her. It's fine. Give the wedding dress to this lady. I hope they can be happy. After saying that, I turned and left the bridal shop, then called my father. Dad, tell him to withdraw the investment on Zhuoran's wedding day. It was time to put an end to everything with Zhuoran. Though 9 years of love had left me unwilling to let go. Perhaps these were also the most precious 9 years of my life, encompassing my entire youth. But I must take responsibility for my own blindness and pay the price for my naivety. The cost of one-sided affection is always heavy. But I must move on and start my life anew. After leaving the bridal shop, I returned to the company. But as soon as I entered, I heard my colleagues discussing something. Have you heard? Mr. Zhua's new bride isn't Shiwen after all, it's a girl named Yahan. They say she's Mr. Zhua's Sophia, and he's been in love with her for years. Director Wang just showed us her photo, she's way more beautiful than Shiwen. Compared to her, Shiwen is worlds apart. If I were Mr. Zhua, I'd choose Yahan too. Shiwen doesn't hold a candle to her. I always thought of Shiwen as the boss's wife, but it turns out she was just his backup option. These words felt like knives stabbing my heart. I pretended not to hear anything and walked straight to my office, then packed all my belongings into cardboard boxes. I understand the saying, when the tea is cold, the guests leave. These staff members used to call me Sister Shiwen. Now that they know Zhuoran isn't marrying me, they've all turned so cold. Human nature. However, just as I was packing my things, Zhuoran suddenly burst in, furious, pointing at me and shouting. What's going on with Mr. Johnson's order? Why did Mr. Johnson suddenly say he won't cooperate with us? Did you sabotage us behind my back? You should know how much I've sacrificed for this company over the years. Lu Shiwen, keep your personal feelings separate from work. If you're using personal feelings to take revenge on the company, I won't let you get away with it. I've worked so hard to get where I am today, and I'm about to become the chairman of a listed company. The hardships behind this are not something you can understand. Hearing Zhuoran's words, I couldn't help but laugh. Over the years, many of the company's orders were secured through my behind-the-scenes efforts. I suspect that my father has already started contacting some of the company's partners to cancel their collaborations. He actually thinks the company going public is all thanks to his own abilities. But I didn't argue with him. I just coldly replied, I haven't contacted Mr. Johnson. Zhuoran finally noticed I was packing up my office supplies. He furrowed his brows. Are you quitting? Yes, staying here anymore has no meaning. I nodded indifferently, not even looking up at him. It's better if you quit. Your office can be given to Yahan. He replied instinctively. Hearing this, my heart couldn't help but ache. If I didn't leave, he would probably force me out anyway. At that moment, he threw a check in front of me. It was for 10,000. At least you've been with me for so many years. This 10,000 is your severance pay. This time, I truly laughed, though he couldn't hear the bitterness in my laughter. So, I was only worth a measly 10,000. What are you laughing at? Do you think the money is too little? Shiwen, over the years, everything you've eaten, worn, and used, every single thing was paid for with my money. I'm willing to give you severance pay. I've already been more than generous. Zhuoran spoke with unwavering conviction. Seeing him like this, I felt more sorrow than anything else. I had loved this man for 9 years. How foolish I had been. I slowly picked up the check from the desk. The corner of his mouth curled into a contemptuous smile. Until I tore the check into two pieces right in front of him. Keep it for yourself. You'll need this money in the future. Besides cutting off all professional ties with him, what I needed to sever even more were the little moments we shared in our daily lives. Though some memories were tinged with a hint of beauty. But most of them were probably just my one-sided illusions of happiness. Looking back now, his coldness was just a way of brushing me off. However, as soon as I returned home, I found that many of my belongings had been thrown out at the front door. They were all my personal items. Yes, throw all of these out too. The bed sheets too. I can't possibly touch the bed sheets that woman slept on. And these cups, throw them all out. Inside the house, I heard Johan's voice as she pointed things out to the movers. Almost half of the things in the house had been thrown out. My clothes were scattered all over the floor, with several pieces stained with dirty footprints. Aren't you being a bit too much? I didn't get angry, I just spoke coldly. She finally turned around and met my gaze, her eyes filled with a hint of superiority. I thought you wouldn't come back, so I decided to clean everything out. She said it casually. Then, she walked slowly toward me in her high heels. Joanne has dumped you. You should know that I'm the mistress of this house now. Your things, I should naturally throw them all away, right? After all, I have OCD and won't touch things other women have touched. Seeing her like this, I suddenly understood why Joanne loved her so much. Because they were truly the same kind of people. Both so ridiculous. Go ahead and throw them away. I don't want these things either. I smiled faintly. This time, I only came back to retrieve one thing. It was the most important thing in my life. After speaking, I walked around her, intending to go inside and retrieve that important item. However, she reached out and blocked my path. What are you doing? This is my house now, you have no right to go in. I looked at her and explained, there's something very important inside, I'll take it and leave. After saying that, I walked straight into the living room. But when I saw that one corner of the shell sculpture had been chipped off, the anger I had been suppressing finally erupted. How dare you chip it off? This shell sculpture was made by my mother before she passed away. She spent an entire day by the seaside, picking up shells one by one and gluing them together. Since moving in with Joanne, I had placed it in the most prominent spot in the house. Every day, looking at it was like looking at my mother. But now, it was broken. It was like my mother's lingering shadow had also shattered. As I bent down to pick up the broken shell fragments that had fallen to the ground, Johan suddenly scooped up the shell sculpture. It's just a worthless trinket. What's there to be so upset about? Put it down. Seeing her casually hold it in her hands, my heart jumped to my throat. She raised an eyebrow and smiled, then let go of it in front of me. With a loud crash. The shell sculpture, which had been glued together with adhesive, was now completely shattered. Oops, my hand slipped. Johan feigned innocence, but the corners of her mouth curled into a smug smile. Watching the sculpture shatter completely, the heart I had barely managed to mend was shattered once again. The pain was 100 times worse than losing Joanne. You bitch! I sprang to my feet like a madwoman and slapped Johan's fair face with all my strength. A loud slap echoed as her delicate face was left with deep fingerprints. Just then, Joanne returned. Seeing the scene, he rushed into the room and slapped me across the face. Joanne immediately threw herself into Joanne's arms, sobbing softly. Joanne, she hit me. My face hurt so much. I only accidentally broke this shell sculpture, and she hit me like this. Joanne, you have to stand up for me. Furious, my chest rose and fell violently as I glared at Joanne with tears in my eyes. How important that shell sculpture was to me, Joanne knew very well. Yet, Lu Shiwen, don't you dare go too far. Just because of a shell sculpture, you think you have the right to hit someone? Apologize to Johan right now. Seeing his reaction, I realized he had never cared about me at all. I was so angry I couldn't speak. I bent down and picked up the shells one by one from the ground. Soon, my fingers were cut by the sharp edges of the shells, causing a stinging pain. Can't you understand? I told you to apologize to Johan. Joanne wouldn't let it go. I ignored him and continued picking up the shells. But just as I finished the last piece and stood up, Joanne flung his hand, sending all the shells crashing back to the ground. I told you to apologize to Johan. His voice grew even more shrill. I bent down once more to pick up the fragments. At that moment, all I wanted was to take these fragments with me. Nothing else mattered. I heard Joa Rant's soothing voice comforting Johan. Don't pay attention to this crazy woman. I'll take you to the hospital first. The wedding is coming soon. I want you to be the most beautiful bride. This kind of crazy woman won't end well. After saying that, Joa Rant gently picked up Johan and took her to the hospital. When I finished picking up the shells and stepped out of the house, it had started raining outside. That's good. This way, no one would see the tears I couldn't hold back. That day, I don't remember how I walked all the way back home from Joa Rant's house. I also don't remember how long it took. I only remember that when I reached the front door, I collapsed into my father's arms as soon as I saw him. It was the first time I had ever seen him cry out of concern for me. Daughter, why did you do something so foolish? I'll make that good-for-nothing come crawling back to you on his knees. I looked at my father weakly, but my voice was firm. Dad, I'll handle it myself. After saying those words, I fainted. In the days that followed, I ran a high fever and was in a daze every day. In my dreams, I saw my mother. She didn't speak, but held me gently, just like she did when I was a child. The day I recovered from the fever was the day of Joa Rant and Johan's wedding. Due to the matter between Joa Rant and me, I had never allowed my father to get involved. So to this day, Joa Rant still doesn't know that the biggest investor in his company, Mr. Parker, is my father. Hiding my identity has always been my father's wish. 5 years ago, when Joa Rant agreed to be my boyfriend, I excitedly shared the news with my father. That day, my father smiled and said, when, before you get married, you must not reveal my identity to your boyfriend. That way, you'll see his true feelings. And you'll be sure he's not with you for your money. At the time, I naively argued back. Dad, Joa Rant isn't that kind of person. We're together because of love. Haha. Thinking back to what I said back then, I was truly naive and foolish. As the company's largest investor, my father was naturally the most important guest at Joa Rant's wedding. When I arrived at the wedding venue, even though the banquet hall was already packed with guests, Joa Rant and Johan were still waiting anxiously at the hotel entrance because my father hadn't shown up. Joa Rant's wedding was indeed grand. There were not only over 100 tables of banquet guests. They also invited many reporters to live stream the event. It was so extravagant it seemed like they were announcing their beautiful love to the entire world. The giant wedding photo on the hotel's exterior wall was so large that it could be seen clearly from 100 meters away. Unfortunately, this wedding was not going to happen today. Shiwen, what are you doing here? You're not here to cause trouble, are you? Today is Mr. Zhua's big day. Don't do anything reckless. Quick, call security. This woman. How dare she show up at the wedding venue today? She must be here to cause trouble on purpose. She was dumped by Joa Zong and still chose this moment to cause trouble. She has no shame. Soon, the company colleagues noticed me and rushed toward me, ready to push me out. After all, when one person succeeds, everyone around them benefits. With the company's IPO imminent, their salaries and bonuses would multiply, and the lucky ones might even get company shares. Joa Rant's thigh was something they would cling to as tightly as possible. Soon, the security guard and Joa Rant appeared. Perhaps because there were many media outlets present, Joa Rant didn't fly into a rage but maintained a gentlemanly demeanor. But from his eyes, I could see the hatred he felt toward me. We've already broken up. Today is the day I'm getting married to Johan. I hope you won't cause any trouble. After saying that, he motioned to the secretary, took the check, wrote a few strokes with a flourish, and handed it to me. I know you're here for the money. Here's 50,000. Should that be enough? Today, I don't want to get angry. Be sensible and leave immediately. At that moment, I saw Johan say something to the media, and the reporters on site immediately turned their cameras toward me. Perhaps she wanted the whole world to see how unreasonable her ex-boyfriend was. Until I looked into the camera and spoke slowly. As the company's largest investor, can't I attend Joa's wedding? As soon as I said that, the scene fell into complete silence. But just a moment later, a burst of laughter erupted. Ha ha ha, this woman must not be able to handle the emotional blow. She's lost her mind. This woman must be crazy. How dare she claim to be the largest investor? We all know what she's worth. This woman wouldn't even be able to feed herself without Zhuozong. Now she's claiming to be the biggest investor. She's always been useless at the company. If it weren't for Zhuozong's mercy, she'd have been fired long ago. Everyone was looking at me with mocking expressions. Even Zhuo Ran couldn't help but laugh, staring at me with a playful expression. I know you love me so much you'd die for me. Without me, your whole world would collapse. But really, you don't need to make up such a reason. It just makes you look mentally unstable. Take the money and go to the hospital. If there's something wrong with your brain, you need to get it treated. Yahan even took out her phone and dialed the mental hospital's number. Hello, we have a mentally ill person causing trouble at my wedding. Please send someone immediately to take her away. Alright. Since she's mentally ill, the security guards should take her out first. I don't want my mood ruined by such a person on such a good day. As Yahan gave the order, several security guards rushed over to grab my arms. Until my father's voice rang out. Who dares to touch my daughter? Daughter? My father's voice thundered like a bolt from the blue. Everyone present turned their gaze toward my father. Their eyes were filled with shock and fear. Zhuo Ran swallowed hard, his lips trembling uncontrollably. Mr. Parker, are you joking? He looked at my dad with a fawning expression, his fear clearly visible. My dad responded with a hard slap across his face. The sound echoed through the room. Zhuo Ran stumbled backwards several meters, nearly falling to the ground. Who are you? How dare you hit my husband? Yahan was still confused. Seeing my father strike Zhuo Ran without hesitation, she lunged forward, clawing at him. But before she could reach him, another slap echoed through the room. This time, it was Zhuo Ran, now filled with fear, who ran forward and slapped Yahan across the face. You have no respect. How dare you speak to Mr. Parker like that? Apologize to Mr. Parker immediately. It was clear that in just a moment, Zhuo Ran had completely panicked. He knew all too well what the consequences would be for offending my father. Zhuo Ran, you abandoned my daughter for this woman? My father's expression was dark and terrifying. The scene erupted into chaos. Oh my God, what's going on here? Shiwen's father is actually Mr. Parker. Wow, so the young mistress has been at the company all along. How could Mr. Zhuo not know about this? It's over. Mr. Zhuo has offended Mr. Parker in this way. The company is doomed. Forget about going public, it'll probably go bankrupt soon. Some staff members even rushed forward to plead for Zhuo Ran. After all, if the company went bankrupt, their futures would be ruined. They would all lose their jobs. The wealth they had almost attained would all vanish into thin air. Sister Shiwen, you've been with the company for so many years. You must have some attachment to it. You can't let Mr. Zhuo's personal issues affect the company. That's right, Sister Shiwen. Why don't you take over the company? We'll all support you. They all fell silent, not daring to utter a word. Shiwen, Dad has told you to make the decision about the company. Seeing the scene, my father spoke calmly. These words seemed to give Zhuo Ran a glimmer of hope. He suddenly knelt down in front of me, in front of everyone present, including the reporters. Wife. I never expected him to call me wife. Once upon a time, I had hoped that he would wake up every morning and call me wife by my ear. I had begged him many times, but he had never been able to say it. I never thought the first time would be like this. How ironic. You have no right to call me that. It makes me sick. Your wife is her. I have already given you everything. Slap. As I said this, he raised his hand and slapped himself hard across the face. Shiwen, I was wrong. I really was wrong. The person I truly love has always been you. Especially now, without you, I can't go on living. At that moment, he was as humble as a dog. Get up. But at that moment, Yahan grabbed him by the arm, her face filled with anger. Zhuoran, get up. Kneeling before this woman, where's your dignity? The person you love is clearly me. Even without the investment, the company can still develop. I came back from abroad for you. But as soon as Yahan finished shouting, Zhuo Ran suddenly stood up, his eyes bloodshot, and grabbed Yahan's neck. Instantly, Yahan's face turned bright red. Zhuo Ran continued to glare at Yahan, shouting furiously. This is all your fault. You're just a pretty face. I was blind to marry you. Get out of here right now. Seeing Joran like this, I finally felt a deep sense of disgust toward this man. My father was right. You can't let a man know that his girlfriend is rich. Otherwise, he's not after love. He's after money. Dad, let's go. I couldn't stand watching this disgusting scene for another minute. Holding my father's arm, I left the venue. Shiwen, I love you, I really do. Give me another chance, please. Without you, I can't live. Joran's voice echoed behind me. I coldly replied. Then die.